Roll 3, a realistic epic fantasy adventure by Wdowski. Note: for your full enjoyment, be sure to read or listen to the end and continue to the next chapter. Chapter 22. Dale woke before sunrise. The binoculars he had, according to the letter in the time capsule, had the ability to function in the dim light of a full or half moon, or just after sunset, or just before dawn. The letter was right. Dale was amazed at how much better he could see in the pre-dawn with the binoculars than without them. Searching the night sky, he was able to spot a cloud of bats as they fed on insects over the river. At times, one or two were lost to the giant river fish jumping from the depths to snatch a bat for a quick meal. Most, though, were able to dodge the monster fish, yet a few were unlucky. When rays of the morning sun began to brighten the eastern horizon, the bats finished their feasting and began to gather and return to the sanctuary of their roost in their cave. Dale marked on his map using the glowing compass to mark the direction they flew. As the crow flies, they made a bead for the northwest, examining the updated map Greendale had supplied him. It indicated that there was only forest between the cave and their campsite on the west bank. Not a single road or trail was noted on the map this far north and west of the great river. The original map from the time capsule indicated that over 1,500 years ago there were many roads and towns in the area. When the Grand War ended, it only took a few decades for Mother Nature to reclaim the whole area. The only signs of a human past were the ruins of Albany. Yet that too was mostly engulfed by the natural woods of the northeast. In this area, it was almost as if humanity never existed. The few descendants of humanity that survived the Grand War were all settled east of the Great River. Dale realized they were most likely the first humans to travel this far west for over 1,000 or more years. The closest Neathton city was Tregore, over 100 miles to the southeast. Their major cities were hundreds of miles further south from Tregore. The Anubis had only their one large city within their walled-in lands on the east banks of the New Angle River. None of them traveled in these woods. Looking at the woods they were camped beside, Dale thought they would actually make better time on foot through the dense woods than on horseback. He decided to consult Chopson. Approaching his tent, Chopson emerged already dressed and ready for the day. "You're up early," he greeted Dale. "I was spotting bats to figure out which way to their cave." Dale explained, "There are no trails in this area. I think the only way to get there is to walk. The woods are too dense for horses. We can pull along 2 pack horses as we cut through the underbrush. The rest of the horses will keep here." "In that case, our transporting them all across the river was meaningless," Chopson responded. "Perhaps a bad call on my part," Dale admitted. Chopson looked at the dense forest. "I agree, we would actually make better time on foot than mounted. How far is the cave?" "My estimate from the map is at least 14 miles. 14 miles, you say? On foot that would be most of the day as we hack our way through. That is if we don't run into any major obstacles." Chopson stroked his beard as he thought. "We would need to take everything with us. Set up a new site near the cave, meaning we would need all the mounts." "Yes, but if we do make a trail, we could take just enough horses for us to ride back to camp here. No need to break camp and set up a new campsite. The next morning we can ride to the location in less than 2 hours if we canter most of the way. Collect the guano, pack 2 pack horses, then head back to camp way before sunset. How many men do you think you would need to clear a trail to the cave?" Chopson walked to the edge of the woods to examine them more closely. "We just need to clear the underbrush. The trees are spaced far enough apart that we don't need to fell any. We could easily make a trail wide enough for a single horse to travel. Just need 2 other men to clear what I cut, at least 1 pack boy to follow us with the needed horses for our ride back." He thought a bit more. "The quadron, he would be a great help. I have to admit he alone is worth 3 men. What about the sulfur?" Chopson turned back to face Dale. "Actually, we have 2 different sources, according to the letter. The closest source of sulfur is a place called Sharon Springs. It is 13 miles northwest from the cave. Unfortunately, there are also no roads or trails to it. We would have to blaze a second trail to that location. The other problem is there is no sulfur just waiting for us to scoop up at the springs. Then why go there if there is no sulfur? Well, there is, but it's in the waters. We would need to boil the water to extract the needed sulfur, a process that could take days, even weeks, in order to load 2 horses. I don't think Zup would be happy with that long a delay. Where is the second location? According to the letter, there's a place called the Phillips Mine. It is 90 miles south on the Riverside Road, a 2 days' ride from here. It's a pyrite mine. Pyrite? It's a rock. The letter explained the sulfur can be extracted from pyrite through a process known as roasting. They would first crush the rock and then heat it. Sulfur dioxide gas would be released in the process, which they condensed into pure sulfur. That sounds like a long process too, Chopson pointed out. And we don't have the equipment for doing condensing. True, but the letter stated that there could already be processed sulfur stored at the site. Can sulfur last over 1,500 years? It's a primary element like gold or silver. It never changes once it is extracted. If it's still there, it is still usable. Dale knew it was a long shot. It would be the quickest way to get enough sulfur. But as I said, we are assuming over all this time no one else has taken it. Dale looked east at the sun rising over the tree line on the opposite side of the great river. It would be a gamble that it is still there. Yet I don't see why anyone would have taken the sulfur over all these years. No one else has the formula for gunpowder. It should still be there, more than enough. Chopson also looked up at the rising sun. I should get to work. I will go with you. I have the map and compass to help keep our bearings. Using the compass, he pointed where Chopson should begin. There. Just keep on a straight course on a 45-degree angle north of due west. I will join up with you later. Will do. Chopson began shouting out for the men he wanted to start working. They all began coming out of their tents, dressed and ready. Dale went back to his tent to check on Pixa. He walked in, seeing that she was still in her bedroll. Pixa. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes from crying. She sniffled. Yes, Dale. He knelt down to her. Did you sleep well? I had no choice. When the sun sets, we must sleep. Her eyes pooled with water, and when the sun rises, we always wake. Where were you, Dale? I felt very alone waking with you, not still here. I am sorry, Pixa. I had to wake before sunrise to see if I could spot any bats to discover the direction of their cave. I didn't try to wake you, thinking you needed the sleep. She sat up, giving him a touching grin. Thank you. Yet, when we are in our deep sleep, nothing can wake us. Not even a kiss, she smiled. Not even a kiss? He was surprised by her comment. A little fairy humor, she replied. Something Bruce would say. Thinking of her brother, she sighed, but smiled a bit more. Again, I am so sorry for his loss. He took her extremely small hand into his. I know he protected you and loved you greatly, only as a brother can. I promise you, Pixa, I will now protect you with my life, if need be. Thank you, Dale. She sniffled back her tears as she spread out her wings to hover up to his level to kiss him on his cheek. I need to leave you here for the day. We will be cutting a trail to the cave. Most of the men will stay in camp. You will be safe here, once we finish the trail. I will ride back as fast as I can to see you before the sun sets. I understand, Dale. Do what you need to do. You do not need to worry about me. But I do, Pixa. I do worry about you. He looked at her sincerely. I will get back as soon as I can. Don't you want me to scout ahead for you? She questioned him. Not in these dense woods. I don't want you taking point. Josh will be with us. His senses will detect any dangers. We should be fine. He stood. She flew higher to maintain eye contact with him. Be safe, Dale. Early afternoon. Looking behind him, Dale was impressed by the trail they had hacked out so quickly. Chopson and Josh blazed through the forest like a machine. Josh used one of Chopson's axes to quickly down any needed trees to widen the trail. His efforts made it wide enough that 2 mounted horses could comfortably transverse side by side. Did you ever think of being a woodsman, a lumberjack? Chopson asked Josh. Before Josh answered, Dale asked him Josh, do you have any remorse by taking down these trees? They are plant life, unable to flee or fight back. You are correct, they cannot. Yet as great as the great author is, he has not written any of us to be perfect, especially since we do not live in a perfect world. Josh responded, making a final blow, bringing down another tree. What of your devotion? I am sure you noticed that our home was a log cabin. I had built it with my own 4 hands. Josh held up his 4 hands to Dale, with the axe in his upper right hand. The great author has written flexibility in the stories of our lives. He is not an absolutist. Realism seems very important to the great author, stated Dale, who took a drink from his canteen. It is. He cares deeply in writing logical and reasonable characters and worlds. Josh was deeply pleased that Dale was trying to understand his faith. Besides allowing us to use the bounty of his trees, to build homes, and our tools are all part of his narration. For example, my hunting bow and all my arrows are all from the plant life the great author has provided us. Yet, you are killing those trees and plants to make your home, tools, and weapons. Chopson chimed into the conversation as he continued to chop away the underbrush with his other axe. Josh turned to Chopson. Yes, but also by taking down older trees, we are giving space and sunlight for many younger sprouts to grow. It is all part of the cycle of the universe, he has written. Dale nodded in understanding. Never thought of it that way before. It makes sense. As a woodsman, I have always understood the dynamics of the forest. Cutting down all the trees would be putting me out of business. Smart, thoughtful harvesting of trees sustains my profession, and more importantly, a profession for my children and their children. Chopson agreed with the harmony of Josh's faith. Josh grinned widely, just as the great author had structured our world to be. Late afternoon. Just up ahead, they could see through the forest the cave. Dale rolled up the map and put the compass in one of his vest's pockets. You'll be all right from here on? Yes, Dale, Chopson replied. We made it with daylight to spare. Dale looked up at the sun, hoping he could make the ride back before sunset. He mounted one of the 7 horses that the pack boys had brought. He said a quick goodbye to them all, as he pulled on the reins to direct his mount back the way they had come. Kicking his heels into the flanks of the animal, he shot off into a gallop down the newly made trail to the great river. He was unable to force the animal to gallop all the way back. He had to let it trot at times to rest. Once his horse was rested, he would command it into a canter. All the way back, he alternated between a canter and a trot to avoid exhausting his steed. Only when he knew he was close, and the sun was beginning to set in the west, he kicked the horse's flanks for it to gallop the short distance to the camp. Riding in fast, he beat the sunset. Dismounting quickly, he saw Pixa just about to fly into his tent. He called to her, "Pixa!" She turned, hovering just outside the tent. Her face glowed with a broad smile. "You kept your word."